and welcome back to Tune with me, Dr. Madeline Castry. Now today I wanted to speak about a musical element that I really don't think we talk in enough detail on, and that is tempo, and that simply means speed. Now when we're thinking about music, we usually think about the melody, the pitch, how interesting a piece is through its instrumentation, its texture, what it sounds like, its lyrics. We often take for granted how fast or slow that piece is, and we simply just call it fast or slow. Now in music, we have lots and lots of cool words for tempo. Now these range from andante, which means at a walking pace, to allegro, which means fairly fast, to presto, which is very fast, and so on. There's lots and lots of cool terms. But another area that we can analyse music in is its BPM, and that is beats per minute. Now if we're playing music and we're using a metronome to keep us in time, we would set that to the BPM marking at the front of the score. Now let's say it's 75 beats per minute, we would set that to the note value at the start of the music and it would keep us in time. And we wouldn't think much more of it. But we don't tend to think in that level of detail, and it's not even that much detail when we're consuming music, and yet the tempo has such an influence on the way the music makes us feel. So what I wanted to introduce you to today is 3 little recommendations, little snippets of pieces of music for how we can use tempo to perhaps get moving and to apply it to a different level of intensity of movement or exercise. So I'm going to be using a recent campaign that I composed for a really cool organisation, and it was a movement breaks campaign to get people moving. So I'll show you some little snippets of music and just explain the BPMs behind my recommendations. So we'll start with the slower BPM piece of music, and this is around the 80 mark, 80 BPM. So if you're wanting to go for a walk or undertake some low to moderate intensity exercise, 80 BPM is a really good bet. Now the reason why is because 80 BPM is just above the average heart rate, there or thereabouts. If we're thinking of meditative music, we might be around the 60 mark, so it can sync to our heartbeat. But this is just above, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit brisker, but it's nothing too major. So if you listen to this little snippet of piece of music, try and sync your breathing to it, and almost imagine maybe you even want to take a few steps on the spot. Just move your body to it to the beat, and you'll find that it's really, really nice. It doesn't push you too hard, but it's an easy rhythm for your body to sync to. Next, let's talk about a moderate level, and this will be around the 100 BPM mark. So this is good for a brisk walk or maybe some reps. It's quite good for that because it's not necessarily fast enough that you would run to it, but it's quite good if you're doing medium paced reps, maybe squats, maybe lunges. It can be really, really useful. And the reason why is it's that little bit of a brisker heartbeat. It's really good to sync to. It's good to sync your breathing to. And I always find that 100 BPM is quite a neutral tempo for your phrasing. Now, what I mean by that, I'm not saying that you have to sing along or like start vocalizing to this piece of music, but we all have natural phrasing in whatever we do. Whether we're speaking, whether we're delivering a message, whether we're presenting, we all phrase intuitively because we don't find ourselves often running out of breath when we speak, even though we don't necessarily know what we're saying. The same goes with movement and exercise and the way music links to it. And when we're doing reps, we're syncing our breathing to them, quite often subconsciously without a second thought. And 100 BPM is a really good tempo to achieve this really nice mind-body connection where our physiological responses are actually helped and they're enhanced by the music that we're hearing. So have a listen to this little snippet and see if you can just enjoy maybe perhaps a few reps, even if you're not in the movement mood right now, maybe a few squats, just bending the knees, or even walking on the spot, maybe some lunges to the side, just to really tap into the movement and how the sound can be a stimulus. And lastly, let's talk about an upbeat tempo. So this will be around the 120 BPM mark. Now, if you're a really seasoned gym goer and you want to pump it out, you might want something quicker. But again, this isn't going to really puff you out. It's nice to accompany a heightened heart rate, a quicker heartbeat, as you move into that slightly higher intensity exercise. Now, quite often when you're playing or listening to a piece at this tempo, the beat itself can be more obvious because faster pieces tend to have naturally more intensity, and that then is reflected across the instrumentation. Same goes for the lower end of the spectrum. Really slow pieces can sometimes be a little bit sparser, but that rule I often find is not quite so clear at the lower end of the spectrum because you can have very slow but very grand pieces. At the faster end of the spectrum, of course there's daintier elements and you can have maybe flurries of woodwind, but more often than not, when you're looking at music to move to, the beat is a little bit more pronounced. So in that sense, it's maybe a little bit easier to follow. And you'll find that when the beat is that little bit more obvious, that cadence and that syncing of our physical rhythm is even more pronounced. So have a little listen to this final example and see how you feel. Maybe you can jog on the spot if you want to. have it, an introduction to tempo. And I would urge you, if you're wanting to use music to work out to, as so many of us do, or even if it's just background music to accompany a walk, or perhaps even a mindful moment if you're meditating or just listening with intent, really think about tempo, because tempo so profoundly syncs to our internal rhythm. And yet we so often just categorize a piece as fast or slow. But I hope this video has shown you there's so much more to it than that. And if we can be a little bit more mindful about tempo when we're choosing what we listen to and what we consume in our sound, well, it can work for us in that many more ways. Thanks for watching, take care, and don't forget to subscribe.